どうも皆さんこんにちは、ひろむすきです。今回は世界ランク3位のTweek選手が挙げたキャラランク動画を翻訳していきたいと思います。補足としてこの動画は2週間ほど前に上がって近日までアメリカでは約1年間オフ大会がなかったので、それを踏まえたランク表となります。それでも内容はすごく面白いのでぜひ見てみてください。翻訳動画は S ランク、A ランクで終わりますが、もし応募があれば続きの B と C ランクの翻訳動画も作っていきたいと思っていますので、コメント欄で教えてください。あと、日本の世論の違いや面白い点なども教えてくだされば嬉しいです。高評価、チャンネル登録もお忘れずに。それでは本編の方をどうぞ。
So, Joker and Pikachu, I think, are a gap between the rest of the characters, but not big enough for me to give my own tier, but big enough to mention. I think Joker is actually a small gap between Pikachu as well, an even smaller gap than what I first mentioned, but it is a gap. Okay. I think Wolf, throughout the patches and all that, is actually for sure number 3 now. Palu got nerfed again. I think that's pretty helpful for Wolf. What else is crazy? Okay, so for S tier and A tier, I have a big difference. I think to be an S tier character, I think you have to be flexible enough to be an S tier character. Some of them were really hard to place because it was really hard to tell, are they flexible enough to be S tier or are they A tier? Like Snake and Rob are a good example of I wasn't sure if they were flexible enough. But I think
they're like borderline.
Yeah, but I think their scrapping is good enough to be S tier. So I would say they're flexible enough.
Okay.
And then A tier, I think Peach is a perfect character to start with A tier because her strengths are so ridiculous. She's almost flexible enough despite having very obvious weaknesses in matchups. So that's why she's the first character in A tier. I know
the Inkling here, I'm surprised, Gavin. I'm very surprised.
You thought she'd be higher or what?
I thought you would put Inkling in S.
Yeah, I'm kind of like bending to other people's wills at this point.
Yes, we did it! We did it, Reddit!
I don't want to do it because I have so much faith, but it's still like really high, so it's okay. I don't think Wario is a top tier, kind of like Peach. I think it's just matchup spread. On paper, it's just really bad from a character that wants to be top tier, right? There's a lot of matchups where Waft, I am passionately saying, shouldn't be landing. I'm pretty bold with some of the Wario thoughts, obviously, because I play Wario myself. I think there's a lot of matchups where you should never get hit by Waft, and a lot of meaningful hits shouldn't land, and Wario should just slowly lose. I know Sonic might be a hot take. I think Sonic has the best win condition in the game. Once it reaches a certain point of the match, if he has a significant lead, I think on paper it's impossible for any character to win. I think Sephiroth is maybe a hot take too. The opinion for Sephiroth is all over the place.
I think all of us generally thought it was pretty high, right? But you have it as 5, number 5. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's really
hell yeah.
I actually had Palu switched with Sephiroth at one point, but it's so hard. I think I just have to wait for offline with characters like Sephiroth and Pyramithra. Pyramithra, I'm not sure. I do value the character a lot, no matter what, because I think Mithra is just way too way too good. I don't consider what the character is playing to be neutral. I consider it to be advantage state. I just think it's that broken. I think the character is ridiculously easy to play. I think Pyramithra is just really, really easy. That might be a hot take. I think tech chasing is free, covers all options, doesn't matter what you do. Neutral is free, you just win, be with raw speed. But we'll see what happens when we have more data with offline. Because the recovery is extremely bad. It's the saving grace for me when I'm playing against her. It is so stressful to fight Pyramithra and just constantly get hit for not even making a mistake. but the saving grace is that like I'll just like get like a Diddy Kong like edge guard for free. And then Zero Suit is a character I think has a really rough matchup spread, very similar to Peach. But I think the character has many more workarounds.
Flip, jump.
I think the matchups are bad,
Just
but
run.
I think she has a chance
time.
to time you out with the lead because of her mobility.
Yeah.
So I do value that. I definitely underrate Zero Suit. Like a lot of the things like someone like Mars says as ridiculous as they are, I'm usually in agreement. Like I can see why all these matchups suck. But I do have faith in Zero Suit's defense. I think it's almost comparable to Sonic as a comparison.
I agree.
I think it's that good. And then someone like Peach, it's not the case. So similar matchup spread in terms of how many are surprisingly bad. But I think Zero Suit's much more flexible. And that's why she's an S tier, which is the flexible tier. And then Mario, I think is surprisingly flexible too, just because of solid frame data. Despite having very clear weaknesses, I think his damage output and frame data and overall general good speed is good enough to be flexible. And obviously he's just a win button when he hits you. I basically compare him to Wario, except he can just waft you in much more flexible ways off of better frame data. So, you know, that's how I see it. So technically it's like Wario with a better matchup spread just because he's a better character. Pac-Man, it's so crazy to see Pac-Man in S tier as a longtime Smash player because in Smash 4 he did very similar things but was not the greatest. Now he has no weaknesses. They just buffed him in every category. He has crazy frame data. So it isn't like, oh, just get in on him and he can't camp you anymore. It's like he's debatably just as good at aggression as he is at defense. So he has crazy set play, crazy win conditions, crazy confirms, blah, blah, whatever you want to call it. He's just really, really broken. In terms of fighting Pac-Man, your best bet is the fact that he does have some matchups that are just simply really effective, like Palutena, Wolf, stuff like that. Sheik is probably a hot take.
This is definitely a hot take.
Wait, why is everyone laughing?
Coney.
No, we know how much you hate Sheik. Maybe the chat doesn't know, but like we all know that you absolutely despise this character.
Oh yeah,
Character's broken.
I hate Sheik a lot. It kind of like you could start to hear the hatred when I was talking about Mithra, right? You could hear it.
Yes,
like,
the emotion just coming through.
Yeah, I'm passionate about characters like Mithra, Inkling, Sheik. It's just bullshit. There is no neutral. They just win. Like for example,
Yes.
Inkling has broken aerials. They're all super safe. Invincible grabs. Crazy win conditions. Roller doesn't have an audio cue. It just comes out. The ledge trapping is way too easy with grenade. Like shit like that I hate. The more I'm guessing, the angrier I'm gonna get, which is funny because it's what I do to my opponents. We'll not talk about that part. But so back to Sheik. Way too fast. You're always guessing and it's always in their favor. Ridiculous confirms. So you're just always she's always winning in some aspect. And then I hate them even more because of, oh, this character's too hard. Or, oh, I'm like, to me, you have a lot of room for error. Like, I don't care about character difficulty in terms of execution, but if you have all this at your disposal, that's all I care about. You're just too broken. And then Rob was a hard one because Rob has talked about it. You hit Rob and he explodes. Well, it's not that he explodes. He just takes a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But he's like Pac-Man. He's super flexible. Bunch of kill confirms, crazy ledge trapping, amazing recovery. He's really heavy. So I was like, all right, I'll put him in S tier. But it was definitely a last minute decision. Rob is actually my favorite character to fight because I like to hit people and do a lot of damage. And then Shulk is his game plan is just really, really simple. You know, he has an answer to every situation. I just think that's crazy. Monado Arts is like the best move in the game or whatever. pretty easy opinion just to put Shulk in top tier somewhere, specifically on the lower end for me, just because I do think his frame data is a little weird. Getting off the ledge is pretty weird. There's some aspects of him that aren't as flexible as you'd expect despite having Monado arts. So that's why he's on the lower end. And same thing with Snake. Snake has a weird matchup chart, but he's not as flexible as Zero Suit. He kind of just has to subtract certain options from his game plan. And that is definitely hard, but it is doable because he does have great frame data, great hitboxes, great raw kill power. But the fact that you have to use less explosives in some matchups is definitely significant enough for him not to be higher. But I think he's a good character to put at the end of my S tier in terms of valuing flexibility, because like I said, he is the cutoff. I think he's flexible enough where I'd put him there, but if I put him in A tier, I wouldn't take a second look at the same time. So he's somewhere around where Peach is. Yeah, I think Peach is just barely not flexible enough despite having some of the best strengths in the game. You know, in terms of raw neutral against some of these matchups, they're just pretty rough, along with not even having the best top tier matchup spread. So that's enough for me to separate the tiers, starting with Peach. We talked about Wario. Roy is just we talked about Roy. I liked what Has said. You know, the strengths of the character are just very apparent here. Crazy win conditions with jab and side B. Has a great neutral with down tilt. I think down tilt's one of Roy's best moves. You'll never be in trouble for landing it usually. So the character is just really solid, really fast. But kind of going back to what I said about Shulk, you know, despite having all that, some of it isn't as flexible as you'd imagine in some matchups. I think Roy has trouble with Pikachu. I think Roy would probably have trouble with Wario, Diddy Kong, stuff like that. Maybe Pac-Man, Mario. I think the matchup spread just isn't as amazing. I would value Sheik over Roy. It's kind of similar in terms of raw speed, but Sheik is more flexible with projectiles and can work around getting kill setups in more matchups. Which sounds crazy because Roy's kill power is way better, but that's how I look at the game. Inkling, I've always looked at Inkling super high, but you know, I kind of have to slow it down a bit because it's not happening, right? So sometimes I bend to people's will, and I'm like, all right, hopefully one day someone proves to me that Inkling is super broken, but I'll wait for now.
Yeah.
I guess I should speed it up. I'm kind of going through every single character. Diddy Kong is obviously a character I wish I could put higher. We'll see. I don't know what number he is exactly here. It definitely looks like he's top 20. Min Min, I don't know what to say. I have to wait for that character too. Pyra Mithra might end up being lower too, just because the recovery is that bad. I don't know what else to even go with. I do have Cloud pretty high, despite talking about how much better he is online. Kind of like with Has. He's still really, really good.
Wait, is that Marth?
Oh yeah, that's Marth.
I think Marth is probably a hot take here. Marth here being a hot take.
I guess my tier list is a lot of flexibility, consistency, matchup spreads. So a character like Marth, despite how much we were just clowning on him, he's still a sword character. And I value the simple consistency and flexibility that offers, rather than a character like Olimar that's more, I don't know, gimmicky. Or someone like Ken and Terry that are more gimmicky.
Right.
But their strengths are still valuable enough for me to put them in A tier. But someone like Game Watch's gimmick, I think, is strong enough to be better than Marth. So I don't know. It's a hard call.
I think
All right.
Charles said it and Coney said it in the chat too, but I like the way your tier list kind of just flows. Like it's like here's your top tier. These characters are pretty much solo
Very clear
mainable,
cutoff points.
They're gonna win a tournament at some point, this next year.
Yeah.
A is like really, really strong, but not quite as strong as the tier above it. And then B is like you're kind of just your character.
This is the I don't care. I don't care
my
tier
best
list.
to order everything though. Everything is
That
ordered.
was good.
I would probably change
Wow.
things. My opinions change like every day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a month old. I actually might drop Sephiroth a little bit. I might drop Pyramithra a little bit. Don't pay attention to Steve. Just don't even look at my Steve placement. I have no fucking idea. Like literally no idea. So just ignore it.
Man.
But yeah, I like the cutoff with like Olimar, Ken, Terry into Rosa. It's very similar to like the Snake and Peach thing. It's very important to me. That's why I asked Hazmat about like, oh, what did you do for your separations? He's like, oh, I don't know. I just felt like it. Because for me, it was like super important. Like I had my clear reasons. I think, someone like Ken and Olimar's strengths are enough for me to be like, okay, you're allowed an A tier. And then a character like Rosalina is more gatekeepy.